The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
This is your United States of America. Speak your mind. Cross the line now, say the truth. No. Why don't you take it back?
It is Friday, May 31st, 2019, and you are tuned into the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, powered by the Roar Network at thegorillaposition.com. Presented by Hameen Media. And in association with Last Word on ProWrestling.com. On this week's show, we're talking Jon Moxley, Vince Russo, AEW, ROH, New Japan, and some NXT. But before we dive in, it's my obligation to remind you this is a podcast by the fans for the fans, bringing you all the news that is news from across the professional wrestling world. You can find the entire HTM Podcast Network online at hittingthemarks.com. My name is Jargo. I'll be your host for the day, but give it up for my tag team partner, the man who gets free ribs on the way to a recording session, the man, the myth, the legend, the real RBV. Rick, I really hope that you're full.
It's me. It's that R of the B to the V. Rick Vickery, back again. Hitting Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. And yes, my friend, we were a little delayed here on the record simply because I can't think of any reason when you see a sign on the side of the road that says free ribs. There's zero reason out there that exists that you do not stop and partake in the deliciousness.
I completely agree with you. I have to come to Ohio. If there are signs on the side of the road that say free ribs here, you pull over the car and you eat the free ribs. I'm not even mad at you for being late today.
I was going to say, even when I was typing that message to you, I was like, he isn't going to fuck me this one.
I was just like, are you freaking kidding me?
Hey, they were delicious. They were delicious, and they're having it tomorrow, so I will be back there again tomorrow.
So as you heard there in the open, we've got a lot to cover today. Rick, you also did a big interview with Battle on the Border champion Brand and Xavier. That's going to be on today's show. But one thing that we don't have a whole lot of time for on this week's show is WWE. So just real quick, here is your Monday Night Raw review. Yep, didn't watch that shit. How about Tuesday Night SmackDown? Nope, passed on that one too. Huckleberry, anything that you want to touch on real quick before we jump into some good pro wrestling? Anything that you want to talk about from the world of WWE?
I know that there's one, the one thing that really stands out to me this week, and going into this week, everyone, the buzz was, how are they going to answer? How are they going to answer Double or Nothing? And you know what their answer was? They let their one true star shine. Brock Lesnar was the entire highlight because he is their only true star because they refuse to create characters. And when we talk about, that characters over and over, I actually get to talk with Mr. Brand and Xavier about it, like he teaches them how important that is and the tradition of professional wrestling, it lies there with the characters. I know that people are kind of on different sides of the fence if they liked it or not, but it got a great reaction. I happen to really enjoy it. I know you didn't think so highly of it, but
no, I hated it. I hate everything about it. To me, there is absolutely zero reason to ever marginalize Brock Lesnar, regardless of how good it is. And I felt that way about Kurt Angle with the little cowboy hat, and we heard Jon Moxley talk about it on Talk is Jericho. We're going to talk about the interview here in a minute, but Moxley said the biggest mistake that he ever made was showing them that he had any sense of comedic timing, because that once that happened, he was just labeled as a joke inside of Vince McMahon's mind. I'm terrified of what happens with Brock Lesnar going forward here.
A story about a big giant, Kruger. Remember him? Kurgan?
Oh, yeah, Kurgan.
Kurgan, that's what it is, Kurgan. He's there running with Cyrus as his manager and all that.
The oddities.
Well, no, that was before that. They were the Truth Commission. That's when they were a serious unit. The reason the oddities came about is because they had a company party and he was out there cutting it up on the dance floor having fun. Next thing you know, Truth Commission is dismantled and we have the oddities because now he's the fun-loving giant goofball. Okay, now here's my rebuttal though, is we're talking about that situation and we're talking about Dean Ambrose. Brock Lesnar doesn't play by the same rules. This isn't, hey, this is the route you're going. Brock's going to do what he wants when he wants. He's not going to just have to play by their rules because, once again, going back to it, he is a true star.
I don't want to get too far into it because we'll jump into this Monday in the locker room when we talk about the Monday Night Raw preview. But shortly before we started recording today, Paul Heyman announced that Monday night, between the hours of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my client, Brock Lesnar, will be cashing in his Money in the Bank on the reigning, defending, undisputed Universal Champion, Seth Rollins. He actually announced that via a video message on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Heyman Hustle. You're right. Brock doesn't play by the same set of rules. So why would he announce 3 days ahead of time that he's going to cash in the fucking Money in the Bank? This entire storyline is just stupid.
Because they want the reaction you just gave them. They're not cashing in. It's the hustle. Speaking of hustle, we just had a PW hustle drop here on the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network.
Yeah, speaking of Brock Lesnar, they just show up when they want to. Yeah, PW Hustle is a great show too. I very much enjoyed that episode. We'll talk all things Brock Lesnar Monday in the locker room. We also have a ton of reviews to do Monday inside of the locker room. But I guess the lead story for this week is I can't even play that music anymore. I need to know what Jon Moxley's music is going to sound like because Dean Ambrose is dead. And long live Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho break the internet the other day. I saw it as soon as it dropped and I was like, oh damn, people are going to want to hear this one. I hadn't even hit play yet. And I knew people were going to want to hear this interview. It's been literally all that anybody is talking about. Rick, have you had a chance to listen to the interview as of yet?
I have. I took time, sat down, went all the way through it. I think I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think there was a lot there, but I think I just had so much hype going into it though. And I had already heard so much, from the conversation and all that. So yeah, but outside of, we got Moxley and Russo. I mean, that's the two hottest stories going on the internet right now.
Yeah, and then we had Vince Russo claiming that AEW and WWE were kind of in bed together. Rick, let's start with the Moxley thing. And there's so many different things to talk about, but I guess there's 2 points I want to hit on. Number one is vindication. Everything that we have said here at the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, everything that has been said on hittingthemarks.com, everything that has been said by Hameen Media for the last year and a half, if anybody doubted our credibility, Jon Moxley just went and reinforced everything that we have been saying for literally years at this point, 1 million downloads deep worth of us saying this is what's wrong with this company. Which brings us to the second point. He brought up this point about how he is a professional wrestler. And we talk all the time about the difference between professional wrestling and sports entertainment. They have a whole lot of pro wrestlers inside of a sports entertainment company right now. And what really got me was when he's talking about these scripts and these writers, and the writers bring him the scripts, and then we try to get the scripts changed. And Vince McMahon saying that Dean Ambrose needs to read his promos word for word. He needs to read everything verbatim. They want to hire actors. And Moxley even says, if you want all these scripts, hire a bunch of actors. They'd probably be better at it than I am. And that's the difference between sports entertainment and professional wrestling. And I think that's where the big disconnect is right now. We want to watch professional wrestling. Vince McMahon wants to present you sports entertainment. He wants to present you with a Hollywood product with scripts and director cues. It's not pro wrestling anymore. What the WWE is doing is in no way, shape, or form pro wrestling right now.
Yeah, and this really began, this evolution where kind of, pre-attitude era where he got this notion that he had to, pretty much when he pulled the curtain back himself. And, we all thought time, that was to get by the state commissions. You have to deal with all, the licensing and all those fees and all that. But then he just got this, this idea kind of brewing up with inside of him that they had to truly to break out of that shell, to be taken seriously mainstream, that they had to shatter all those walls of professional wrestling. That's what, they redefine themselves as sports entertainment. And it's, they've been, what they've really coveted is, trying to get Emmy nominations or whatever, whatever kind of walk that, whatever they would qualify for there. That is what they really coveted. It's not that, the praise for, actually elevating professional wrestling. Now, it's really easy to sit here and point fingers and the blame game. Obviously, so much goes towards Vince. You throw some towards Triple H himself because, he has played in, how he lets some of the talents and even himself represent themselves on social media. He is actually spitting in the face of so many great traditions that he was taught. So instead of playing this blame game all around, obviously this is how this company is going to run. Even when Vince steps away, it might slightly shift a little bit, but these, these silly ideas that everything's just going to revert back to, to the greater eras and we're going to have classic professional wrestling. That's not going to happen. We need to find a hybrid. That is the question that we should be asking here. Instead of playing the blame game, let's work towards a fix.
Well, and I think that's what AEW is at least trying and attempting to do. But this makes so much sense as I look at the WWE roster in its current incarnation. Who's the number one babyface inside of the WWE in the company's eyes? It's Roman Reigns. Who's the number one heel inside of the company in their eyes? Right now, it's Baron Corbin. Those are two guys who are 100% products of the WWE system. They are handed their scripts, they know what to do with their scripts, and then they go out and they do it. And then you have people like Kevin Owens, you have people like Sami Zayn, you have people like Jon Moxley, you have people like Chris Jericho, who are professional wrestlers. They're not actors. They haven't been trained to be actors. They want to go out and cut promos. They want to go out and have their matches. And instead, they have these writers who are writing things out for them, and then it's getting rehashed, and they spend all day fighting with writers and fighting with Vince about the direction of their character because none of it makes any sense in a pro wrestling context. This is not pro wrestling anymore. This is sports entertainment, and it's only going to be the people that are born and bred inside of that system that are going to flourish. Yeah, there's going to be an exception here and there. Yeah, there's always going to be that AJ Styles who comes in and just gets it, but there's going to be a whole lot more John Cena's and Randy Orton's than there is going to be AJ Styles.
Well, I like that you bring up, that outsider that's going to kind of, shatter that ceiling, if you will. Is it really that surprising that AJ Styles was able to do this?
No.
I mean, because he was trained in a sports entertainment system and worked with so many individuals that did come up through that WWE system when he was with TNA. He knew what he was coming into. And when you mention, individuals like a Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens, even a CM Punk,
there's a ceiling.
It's up. I understand it, but it's up to them to realize they're not going to the WWE to be professional wrestlers. In that sense, they are going there to be sports entertainers.
So now what I think we're going to see over the course of the next 3 years or so inside of the WWE is going to be a lot of the pro wrestlers are going to leave the company. That just seems like an obvious foregone conclusion to me now that there are pro wrestling companies where you can go and make a living, whether it be AEW, whether it be New Japan, Ring of Honor. This AEW thing is going to open up a lot of those ventures for the pro wrestlers. Then you're going to have the sports entertainers who are going to be the WWE born and bred former football players and weightlifters and bodybuilders who are going to be born in the NXT system, come up through the NXT system, guys like Velveteen Dream. He's really the guy inside NXT right now that you can look at and say, that is 100% a WWE creation, and that kid is going to get shot to the moon. You know who's not? Adam Cole. He's a pro wrestler.
And also in those terms, too, when you look at that transition, since the dream is built, under the blueprint of sports entertainment, it's more likely that Vince is going to get what he is when he makes that transition. And there's going to, as you said, there's going to be more invested in him because they invested in him from the ground up. He is their creation. Whereas, with an Adam Cole, it's going to be like, okay, where does this guy come from? What do we do with him? I mean, we've had a million. Did we rehire Stevie Richards? I mean, would that look, or did Stevie Richards shrink down? That's what.
Why'd you throw Shawn Michaels in a dryer?
Right. That's what we'll get out of that. But in the sense, when I'm talking about fixing it there and not dividing it, so these individuals, you're talking about pro wrestlers are going to leave. And yes, now we've got AEW where it's looking like that they can have, a viable competitor salary wise. The fans get so caught up in these ratings and what we're really going to enjoy. When it comes down to it, this is a career for these individuals. So when you get to WWE, sports entertainment or pro wrestling, that's your big payday. I mean, AJ Styles just signed his last contract there. I'm sure, there was something in him that said, hey, I can go back out there, make a lot of money, and I can hook up with the elite and do all this cool stuff. But the smart move was to lock into that next contract that is going to set up his family for generations to come. And that's where he needed to be. And that's where you're going to see a lot of these people, still focusing towards. So how do we fix that within the system? Somewhere we have to start eliminating these drawn out, overwinded live promos. I mean, you have one of the greatest production teams in the world, in all of entertainment. Let's start using that, start cutting together pieces in the back, hit us with quick vignettes, stage things more in the background where if you do want to do scripted things where they don't feel so natural instead of sitting out there, miserably failing in front of a live audience, let's just cut to the back with those things where you can have multiple takes. Here's a crazy idea as well. You want to employ actors as well to come in and read scripts? Bring back the freaking manager system.
Well, you know what occurred to me?
Look at like Lucha Underground, how successful they were with the gentleman that was, seen as the authority figure. He had nothing to do with professional wrestling. He was actually an actor.
One of the things that I heard in my musical career, I was a big fan of the Blue Man Group. You know who the Blue Man Group is, right? One of my friends actually went to Chicago and auditioned to be a Blue Man. Right now, I don't know how many people know this, and maybe this is pulling the curtain back a little bit too far, but there are multiple teams of the Blue Man Group, so they can run multiple tours at the same time. And so the guys go in there and they drum for about 30 seconds, and the rest of it is all acting stuff. And when my friend Matt, who went up and did this, when he asked them what in the hell that was all about, they said it's way easier to teach an actor how to drum than it is to teach a drummer how to act. And I kind of feel like that's where we are with pro wrestling right now. It's a whole lot easier to teach an actor how to wrestle than it's going to be to teach a pro wrestler how to act. I think that may be the actual root of the problem as it stands right now. We have two completely different visions going on inside of the WWE, what Vince McMahon wants and the talent that he has. Because he's only got, maybe a half a dozen guys on that roster that are truly WWE guys? Look at the Ring of Honor roster from 10 years ago. Look at the WWE roster now. It's pretty much the same freaking roster. They have a bunch of pro wrestlers that they want to be Emmy award-winning actors. And it's just not logical or feasible at this point. Maybe what WWE needs to do is go hire a bunch of actors and teach them how to fucking wrestle. Just saying. Let's talk about the guy that ruined professional wrestling and ruined the WWE, and that is Vince Russo. And I firmly stand by that after listening to this Jon Moxley interview. And Moxley said, WWE started going downhill about 2002. I think it was actually before that. I think what ruined the WWE is when Vince Russo left the WWE. Now, I'm not a Vince Russo guy. I think I've made that perfectly clear over the course of the years here on the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling podcast. But it was when Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara left WWE that the writing committee started. And now we've got 37 fucking writers. If Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara would have just stayed, maybe we wouldn't have 37 goddamn writers.
I have to disagree with you here. The problem back then is a lot of the same issue today. It didn't matter if Vince was going to stay there. I think, Vince really left. Mr. Russo and Ferrara left because they saw the writing on the wall, because the princess was returning from college with all of her
That's a
grand
valid point.
ideas of how this company should be run. Up there with
That's
Boston,
a very valid point.
we're going aggressively forward. This is how you have think tanks. You have to bring all these individuals together. Stephanie was going to come in and make her mark immediately. The writing was on the wall. Look, they got the hell out of Dodge. She ran Pritchard out. That whole regime was going to be tossed aside for the new age thinking of Stephanie McMahon. And we see that to this day, as we go now into where it isn't really, a lot about even the programming, about what we're actually watching there. It's about the PR outside. How can they move things? All of our buzzwords that we're regularly hitting on. It was Stephanie McMahon. And when it comes down to getting her way, the princess is not going to hear no from Papa Vince.
Yep. Well, that just throws out my argument. You nailed the shit out of that one. But I find it hilarious how many people got worked by this Vince Russo thing.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I mean, I am just in awe of how many people got worked by this thing. Vince Russo puts out a tweet the other day that basically says, I don't know how you're not seeing this. WWE and AEW are in bed together in this thing. And the internet lost their damn minds. On a week when AEW has their debut show, on a week when the WWE is getting ready to go over to Saudi Arabia, on a week when there is an NXT takeover, Vince Russo steals all the headlines with this asinine tweet. And people just sold it like mad for him. He got so much free press out of this stupid tweet. Like, the only thing that I'll say about this, number one, I applaud you, Mr. Russo. I think this was just masterfully done. But I would like to point out that in order for this to work, Vince Russo had to use Eric Bischoff's oldest marketing tactic in the book. Controversy creates cash. Vince Russo needs ratings for his show. Matt Coon is leaving the show. He signed a deal with Podcast One or Westwood One, whichever one it is, for this show, and he has to show them that he can pull numbers in changing the format. He puts out this tweet. Everybody's going to listen to the show. Controversy creates cash, and Mr. Russo, I applaud you, sir.
Well, to even take it a little bit further, to really, throw some fuel on the fire, he enlists the help of some great conspiracy minds. Some guy, because what we always talk about, when we throw out the term like Mark Tar, what that really means is it's someone that really can't back up a stance. You don't have to agree with our take on everything, but come with a logical explanation. So in general statement, Mr. Russo is like, okay, I might get torched over this thing. Let me go get some great minds. If they believe it or not, they know how to twist logic. They know how to, put together the pieces of a puzzle, if you will, to paint this picture, to get all this heat, this atomic heat that Russo has generated. I would love to know what his numbers and subs for, his Patriarch and all that are at right now, because man, this stunt that he pulled knocked it out of the park.
I mean, for anybody who has ever listened to Vince Russo for more than about 5 minutes knows Vince Russo's idol in all of human existence is Howard Stern. And this was totally a 1990s Howard Stern stunt. Now, and the thing that makes this work is the ECW connection, right? Because we all know the stories of Vince McMahon secretly financing ECW. Like, it's real easy to draw out a series of dots so that people can connect them. I mean, all the way down to Alpha Entertainment. Yeah, I can't siphon money through Titan because that's a publicly traded company. So let's run everything through Alpha Entertainment. And then you have Jericho calling himself the Alpha. And, it's real easy to draw these lines. But, guys, stop it. I mean, just come on.
I heard that there's some rumblings looking to, I know that the XFL's already has some regular season TV deals in place, but I heard that TNT might carry their championship game.
I could not believe how this story took off, man. Just lit the internet on fire. And immediately when I saw it, that's genius. That was my first thought. That was genius.
My first thought, okay. My first thought is he's fishing. And this was just like one thread that I saw, and I looked down, and within like 5 minutes of this, there's 86 comments. Then I scroll over to the next group, that I follow, and they're in there hitting him on that one. And there's 100 comments. I go over to Twitter, and there's thousands of people reacting to this thing. And it's like, bravo, Mr. Russo. You knocked it out of the park with this one.
Yes, well done, sir. Well done. I applaud you. So, Huckleberry, let's talk a little bit of AEW. Yeah, we've got Jon Moxley all over the first half of this show today. It's absolutely insane.
Just like in real life right now, he's everywhere.
He is everywhere.
And this won't be the last time we talk about him.
No. Let's start off with the AEW calendar. People are wondering excuse me. People are wondering what AEW is going to do to stay relevant throughout the summer, obviously, as we wait for the October TV deal to kick in. Well, we've got a series of shows scheduled now, Huckleberry. Fight for the Fallen, Saturday, July 13th, is going to be in Jacksonville, Florida. Tickets are now available for that show. All Out, August 31st in Chicago. On sale June 14th. StarCast 3 tickets on sale right now. That's going to be August 29th through September 1st. Huckleberry, are you going all out?
You know it, baby.
Assuming that we can get tickets, of course. But the next event that they have coming up is Fyter Fest, coming up on June 29th in Daytona Beach. Tickets went on sale a couple of days ago, May 29th. This thing is being put on by CEO Gaming. And Kenny Omega, he did a series of shows last year with CEO Gaming, and I didn't necessarily pay a whole lot of attention to it. It had a bunch of New Japan talent on it, but it was more like a true one-off, completely outside of the narrative. And so now with AEW partnering with CEO Gaming, I was like, all right, what is this CEO Gaming thing all about? So I went and I started reading about Fyter Fest. Rick, this is basically a Comic-Con that is put on by this company, and it is strictly for fighting video games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken. In 2017, they had 4,000 people at this freaking thing. This is like, it's a Comic-Con for video game nerds. That's what's going on here. That's what CEO Gaming is. Kenny Omega's been doing a lot of press with them. This seems like a natural partnership. He's basically become the white Xavier Woods for AEW. He's linking the video game world and the wrestling world. And I thought it was hilarious. I'm looking at all the people who work, the hierarchy of the CEO Gaming company. Dude, they're a bunch of marks. There's like 10 people on their board, and at least half of them are wearing Bullet Club shirts in their profile pics.
Hey, maybe they got a discount on uniforms.
Hey, there you go. This just seems like a match made in heaven to me.
Yeah, and I know he's been doing work with those things. I've looked into this thing myself. So it looks like we're only going to get a handful of AEW representatives here, and then we're going to have some other promotions represented and some different things going on. But it certainly looks like something that's going to be that, anybody that's continuing to support AEW or just kind of interested in checking something different out, maybe a different vibe. I'm believing this is going to be streaming somewhere. I can't remember off the top of my head where I saw that, but it will be available.
I'm looking forward to it too. We got some interesting matches on this show. There are 4 announced matches. Cody is going to take on Darby Allin, which intrigues me greatly. If you have seen any of Darby Allin's work, he's kind of a cross between a luchador and Jimmy Havoc. The guy, he'll do deathmatch stuff, but he's incredibly athletic, very skateboardy. It's going to be interesting to see him match up with Cody. I'm looking forward to that match. The Elite are going to take on the Lucha Bros in a mystery partner. Now, this was originally supposed to be Pac. Now it's going to be a mystery partner. Rick, who fits in with the Lucha Bros on the AEW roster? Like, is this going to be like the Luchasaurus?
That was going to be my first one. I said, I'm going with if the Lucha Bros need a little help. You think they would turn to the Luchasaurus? I know both of us, huge fans of his work. The look, his style, everything about the guy, that vibe really has it there. I think he has potential to be truly a great star for AEW. Shame that he's gone from Ring of Honor.
Were you surprised to see that he signed an actual contract with AEW?
That's what I was saying. My first thought was, what a loss for Ring of Honor. I was really enjoying, the spots that he was doing there for them. Like I said, this guy, I think he's got the potential. When we talk about, just the charisma, you're looking at different styles. I mean, this guy he's really going to shine under that banner.
I like it. Then we have a couple more matches announced here. Michael Nakazawa, which is quickly becoming my favorite character on Being the Elite, is going to take on Jay Bailey. Jay Bailey is a name that I have heard many times on the independent scene, but I don't think I've ever actually seen one of his matches. And then we have what I am considering the main event of this thing, the match with the most storyline build, and we'll talk about the storyline because I think it's freaking hilarious. Jon Moxley is going to take on Joey Janela at a video game convention? Why are we doing this match at a video game convention? Like, doesn't this seem like the kind of match that you would want to save for like regular TV or a pay-per-view?
Well, you know what? That's the initial thought. Hey, let's get some serious build behind this thing. Let's get some real heat. Let these guys just go out there and tear down the world, burn it down, if you will. But I'm thinking this might be the beginning of something. Let's kick it off here. As you said, look at you got 4,000 people in attendance. You got all these eyes here. Some fans that, as you said, the company itself, they're big supporters, but those in attendance might not really be as familiar with AEW right now. But, at some point, I'm going to guess, if they're over the top into gaming, especially fighting, at one point they were huge into professional wrestling. So that might be a whole audience out there that they want to grab right now. So let's run something intense out there like this. I mean, this thing screams, if you've got a good portion of this 4,000 in attendance here, and maybe not all those eyes are on the wrestling part of this thing, but let's say a good chunk of it is, and you got a portion of that audience that remembers the Attitude Era, who remembers ECW, I mean, this is your grab.
This match is being built around a cigarette. That's what this match is being built around. Joey Janela walks into Jon Moxley's dressing room, and he lights a cigarette. And he takes one puff off of it. He puts it up to his lips to take another puff, and Jon Moxley takes a cigarette right out of his mouth, takes a nice big long drag off of it, and tosses it. And Joey Janela is just irate that Jon Moxley just wasted a whole cigarette.
Have you seen the prices of cigarettes today?
Dude, I'm a smoker. Of course I have. Good God Almighty! I understand it, man. But dude, I got to give it up to Joey Janela. The way that he sold that was just great, especially wearing sunglasses to get that much of a facial expression. He was just seething, pissed that Jon Moxley threw away his cigarette.
Hey, simplicity. I would say simplicity at its best here. But you know what this program really would have needed here? I mean, you have that great moment there with the cigarette. They needed to wait just 10 minutes and then have Joey Janela come out and cut a 20-minute promo about how that was his last cigarette.
Oh my God. Joey Janela is just something else.
It should have been my last drag.
That's what RuPaul said. So let's throw it over to your Best of Super Juniors update.
平成6年に幕を開けたジュニアヘビー級最高峰の戦いベストオブザスーパージュニア時は流れて時代が変わり新日ジュニアの新たな幕開けがやってくる新元号令和最初のスーパージュニア
Well, Huckleberry, the A block is now settled. The A block finishing up this morning. B block will be finishing up on Monday morning. Your winner of the A block, Shingo Takagi. I don't think any big surprise to anyone. Shingo goes through the A block undefeated, defeating Taiji Ishimori this morning. Dragon Lee coming in tied with Ishimori with 14 points. Sho and Marty Skrull with 10. Jonathan Gresham, Titan Kanemaru with 6. Tiger Mask with 4. And Taka Michinoku, who withdrawed from the tournament thanks to injury, finishes with 0 points. Huckleberry, I know that you are not a fan of junior heavyweight wrestling in any way, shape, or form, but on this show this morning, we saw Dragon Lee versus Marty Scurll with Brody King in his corner. That match is absolutely fantastic. And then we had the knockdown dragout for the winner of the A block, Shingo versus Ishimori. Shingo getting the big win. Are you watching any of this stuff?
I am. For the sake of conversation here, I've been trying to keep up on this. Now, let me ask you, as we kind of do when we get into the New Japan stuff, I represent, us Westerners here that aren't as involved as you throw out the hard-hitting questions. Now, Shingo, he has a win over Dragon Lee in this tournament.
Correct.
So he is automatically guaranteed an opportunity at the Junior Championship. If he goes on to win this, does he get 2 of those?
Well, I don't think they've ever really worked that out. I don't think I've ever seen them actually give somebody 2 matches, like even if they win the tournament. I've never seen them. Well,
just like you had like a double opportunity. So if you didn't get it done the first time, that was just me beating the champ. Now I want to cash in my opportunity for winning the tournament.
The thing I find interesting is Hiromu. Hiromu was watching this show. He was putting up pictures of his family and Daryl Takahashi's family. Seems like Daryl and Carol had some more kids while Hiromu's been hurt. But he hashtagged it with basically Hiromu's watching and hashtag NJPW Best of Super Juniors. So Rick, we know it's coming. It's just really a matter of when. Dragon Lee still paying homage to Kamatachi, Hiromu Takahashi's character in CMLL. That match is obviously going to happen whether Dragon Lee has the title or not. I guess let's talk a little bit about Monday, because Monday we're going to see the winner of the B block crowned. This is down to a 2-horse race in the B block, and the 2 horses couldn't be more different. The 2 horses are Will Ospreay with 12 points and Taguchi with 12 points. Taguchi upsets El Phantasmo Thursday morning in a fantastic match. Goes 20 minutes and 18 seconds. I've been saying the one time you take Taguchi serious is the Best of Super Juniors. El Phantasmo, Bushi, Robbie Eagles, and Yo all finish with 10 points. So it's going to be Taguchi versus Ospreay to win the B block. You have to assume Will Ospreay is going to win that match, which leaves us with on June 5th, Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi. Is that where Shingo takes his first loss? Because Shingo is not hurt at all by losing to Ospreay.
How much does it elevate him? I mean, because on the other side, Ospreay's not going to be hurt by losing this thing here. I mean, do you elevate somebody here, or do you kind of go back to that well?
See, now I disagree. I think Ospreay is hurt by a loss to any junior at this point, because I was going to ask you about that. Isn't he trying to break away from that mold? Yeah, and what I'm thinking is, I think Will Ospreay may win this tournament, and then rather than fighting against Dragon Lee, declare that he is going to the G1. And so you see Ospreay do both the Best of Super Juniors and the G1 Climax, in which case I don't think he can take a loss to Shingo.
I really do kind of like that story that you're pitching here. The potential of someone who's won the junior and then going into the G1. I mean, that's a great story. Some great momentum heading into the biggest tournament of the year there. I just wonder, with my original thought, I really like what you just pitched there. But, with my original thought, it's you kind of you go out on your back, like you do a little business.
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand that. And I'm not going to be upset if Shingo Takagi wins the Best of Super Juniors.
And what's kind of, when we talk about not the Super Juniors, with the juniors division here, I mean, this kind of is the only time that it really matters. It quickly fades away. Right now, hell, we're not even, there is hardly any mention of the junior tag division because it's kind of in that same boat. So, with him, isn't that more of disrespect towards that division, though? Like, you know what? Okay, I just dominated it. I don't really care about the title opportunity. I'm moving on. Isn't that doing a little disservice?
Yeah, I could see that too. I
I still really like your idea. I'm just kind of looking at, both sides of the coin here. What is?
Or I guess the other option is Ospreay challenges for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship at Dominion, and Dragon Lee just beats him in what will surely be an absolutely freaking insane match. And that's Ospreay's send-off of the junior division.
You know what? I think you kind of, we were talking about we need to find hybrids, come together, a meeting of different styles, ideas here. I think that's the route, because then, Shingo's already been elevated here. He's had an incredible tournament. He showed his dominance. There is no shame in his game losing to Ospreay here. So then Ospreay goes and takes on the champ. The champs struggle a little bit there. As you said, traditionally, the champs, they usually do inside the tournament. But, one-on-one here with Dragon Lee going up against, someone who's really defined that division for so long in Ospreay, he gets that big win there. It elevates the championship, the champ, and then you've got these other competitors ready to go. At that point, while Ospreay can just, really kind of just ride off into the sunset. Hey, hats off, maybe even throw in, I've been thinking about, I had a great run here through the Super Juniors, but I've had something in the back of my mind, and maybe that took my eye off the prize. But now I need to focus on what that was, and it is the G1.
And especially with Hiromu coming back. If you switch out Ospreay and Hiromu inside of the junior division, you're not losing anything whatsoever.
And then within, what you were kind of pitching there, Ospreay can just say, hey, my goal is to make it to both finals, but at the G1, I will claim the championship, or, claim the tournament.
And it's really, really hard to argue that Will Ospreay has had the best tournament. Ospreay is making literally everybody look freaking great while still winning his matches. He's getting everybody over inside of this tournament, even in winning matches. When I look at the first half of the year, as we're just about halfway through now, it's really hard to argue that Will Ospreay is probably the wrestler of the year at this point. This kid is just having an amazing 2019.
If you're into that style, what he is doing, I mean, no matter what narrative you're really looking at, it's a hard argument. I mean, it's hard to dispute.
And he's got everything. I mean, he can wrestle, he can fly, he can get into a strike fest. He's got charisma. Like, what is missing from the Will Ospreay package?
Or you know what? I just kind of comes to memory though. The great Ben Hameen. Could someone fucking explain Ospreay to me?
I don't see any holes in Ospreay's game. Let's take a look at Wednesday. Wednesday, June 5th, is going to be the Best of the Super Juniors final. A block winner versus B block winner. We're also going to have a couple of other big matches. Number one, Tomohiro Ishii is going to take on Tai Chi for the Never Openweight Championship. I really hope that Ishii just pounds the ever-loving hell out of Tai Chi. The only good thing about Tai Chi is Miho Abe. And then we also have Juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley for the IWGP United States Championship. Rick, I'm really surprised this match is happening in Ryogoku and not at Dominion, which is just a couple of days later, June 9th. I don't know if there's some kind of conflict with Moxley's schedule or what. But I absolutely thought this matchup would be at Dominion. And then we have your main event of the evening. That's right, Moxley versus Robinson's not even the main event. Go Ace. It's the return of Hiroshi Tanahashi, the Japanese John Cena. He makes his grand return against the former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Switchblade Jay White, the man who took the title from Hiroshi Tanahashi. Rick, I'm very intrigued by this matchup. Number one, it's going to be great to see the Ace back, see what kind of shape he's in, how he can go. And I'm also fascinated if Tanahashi gets his win back over Switchblade here, because we haven't really seen a whole lot of Switchblade since Madison Square Garden.
We know what really jumped out to me. That's my first thought was, hey, I was intrigued by this thing. I love it when these guys hook up. It's just going to be the next great chapter for me. But I was surprised to see this was getting some heat over in the PW Hustle discussion group on Facebook. They were kind of comparing this to, this is kind of WWE-ish in it, with same old, how many times everybody gets this. But this, to me, that doesn't have that same vibe, because I don't see them on a weekly basis. It's not like they're getting run out there in like tags, and I know that is a style for New Japan, but they haven't worn this out yet.
No, throughout the Best of Super Juniors tour, we saw Tanahashi. I think we've seen Switchblade on maybe one show. And it was in a tag match. Tanahashi came out and announced that he was returning. Switchblade was pissed off about it. I'm actually looking forward to this match.
Well, yeah, and you're looking for, I mean, especially with the big Dominion show coming up, which is, I mean, that's like the marquee or for this. This is a tremendous main event here for this. And as I said, this is going to be your next chapter.
And it's who's going to lose. I mean, I don't see Tanahashi losing in his return match. I don't see that happening. I also don't see Switchblade Jay White losing in his first singles match since dropping the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. He's been one of the most protected guys in the company since he returned from excursion. I don't know how this thing goes.
This thing, it's almost a coin flip, but it's going to be very telling, I believe, of where these guys are going to stand as we really start gearing up for G1.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this matchup because I feel like both guys need a win, and I don't feel like either one can afford a loss.
When do they announce the G1 blocks?
Well, they're already starting to announce competitors. It seems like we're spacing them out a little bit. The first match announced for the Dallas show is Tomohiro Ishii versus Jeff Cobb. Hell yeah, Jeff Cobb in the G1, Jon Moxley in the G1, Ishii in the G1. I mean, dude, just think of how many dream matches you could have with Jon Moxley in the G1.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely insane. We talk about the buzz. I mean, it was one of those things. As soon as I saw the graphic, I mean, I shot up out of the chair I was sitting in, like, disbelief. Yes, this is happening. And remember how excited we were over the possibility of Dolph Ziggler being in this position a couple of weeks ago. Thank you for proving us wrong.
One thing that I got to give Moxley credit for. In that Jericho interview, he talks about the filming of that prison thing and how they went out to LA and they shot it on set, right? And on this set, there's all these different kind of setups. Like there's a prison scene and there's a bar and there's a courthouse and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, there's a bar, huh? Yeah, this was shot at the same time. That Time's Up vignette, that was shot at the same time as the prison break video. I guarantee you that was done by the same people, which tells me that Jon Moxley knew he was going to Japan in February. Just saying.
Hey, I still think, I know it's a topic for another day, but to, just kind of to entice the listeners, maybe get a little buzz going on it. We hit it on it. No, I believe it was in the locker room the other day, correct? Where we were talking about all these ties between these talents and these companies. I mean, is the healing process on with AEW, New Japan? What is up with the relationship with New Japan and Ring of Honor? You toss in MLW, who we saw, their talents were performing at Double or Nothing. We know that there's a little bit of heat there between them and Ring of Honor. How's this all going to play out?
Well, and we're going to start getting some answers on Wednesday. Juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley might be the most important match of 2019. It's not going to be the best match, but it might be the most important match because there's a couple of things to consider here. IWGP US title on the line. Juice Robinson, current champion. Do you see Jon Moxley losing that match? Yeah, neither do I. But do you see Juice Robinson dropping the IWGP United States Championship to an AEW contracted wrestler? And if so, get ready for a political shitstorm, because it's coming. ROH is gonna be pissed.
And maybe there's a reason that, maybe this is a long time coming. Ring of Honor's kind of seen the writing on the wall here, and it's the reason that they don't highlight that championship on their programming.
Yeah, what happened to Juice Robinson is going to be spending a whole lot more time in Ring of Honor in 2019. He shows up in ROH, he forms Lifeblood, and then he goes back to Japan. And then what the hell just happened here? Very, very strange. Do you really think that they're going to put the IWGP US title on Jon Moxley? Or does this end in like a disqualification or something?
See, that's what I am thinking. Maybe we just get some chaos here. But it's what you're talking about, just not his debut here and how hot he is. And they want to, you kind of want to ride that wave. I mean, you don't want him dropping this match heading into the G1. I mean, assuming this is probably going to be his only match before that, correct?
Right.
So, yeah, you don't want him stumbling out of the blocks here. And you're getting all these people hyped up. Yeah, we're bringing in this hot Western talent. He's got, new life in him. He's different than what you've remembered over these last couple of years. Oh, yeah, he just lost to our United States champ. Well,
and not just that, he just lost to Juice Robinson. Like, doesn't that damage Moxley in the AEW fan base eyes? It's like, oh yeah, same old Dean Ambrose.
Hey, one thing we're talking about, Juice's involvement with Ring of Honor. Do we know the details on that contract? Maybe he's getting the hell out of there.
That's what I'm wondering. Very, very interesting. Well, Rick, let's go ahead. Let's throw things over to our feature interview. You had a opportunity to sit down with Mr. Brand.On Xavier, the Battle on the Border. Do you guys call it the World Heavyweight Champion, or is he just the Battle on the Border Heavyweight Champion?
We stick to tradition, and there's rules set in place for you to technically become a World Heavyweight Champion. So it's just the Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. But I'd like to add in here too, we got some great conversation. He's also the co-owner of Mega Championship Wrestling here in Northern Ohio. He's also the head trainer there. He's got some very hot young talents out there on the scene right now. I know he is very proud to see those individuals starting to break through. I think it's going to be a great listen. He's got some old school values, and he's got a lot of wealth to share. He's a great personality, a great in-ring talent, and it was awesome talking with you.
Unfortunately, I was not able to be on the interview with you. I went and I had my eyes checked, Huckleberry, because, I wear glasses and stuff. I got to do that like once a year. They put these like drops in my eyes that are like supposed to numb your eyes when they do the glaucoma test. And I think I had a bit of an allergic reaction to those drops. Every time I blinked, it felt like somebody was pouring battery acid into my eyes for about 36 hours. It was incredibly unpleasant.
I'm just glad that they got you straightened out so you can start seeing things as clearly as I do.
Yeah, maybe it'll make me like the professor, and I'll start enjoying WWE television. So let's go ahead. Let's throw it over to the interview with Mr. Brand.On Xavier. I had a chance to listen to the interview as I was cutting it up for the show here. I think this is a great listen. We'll be right back on the other side to talk a little bit of Ring of Honor and some NXT. Enjoy the interview. We'll be right back.
Stay clear of the train, no fear, just a little migraine. We confess we're guilty of mischief, retrogress. Never know single mind to make the ball. Every little single piece of dust break you off. Every little thing that you must take control. It's burning inside, let it go. And it feel it for a ride. Here we go. Control that feeling. Here we go. Burning inside of you. Here we go. Trust. I think I'm gonna bust.
Pro Wrestling Fanatics, this is a Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast exclusive. As always, hashtag HTMPWPod is the flagship show on the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network in association with the GorillaPosition.com, Last Word on ProWrestling.com, and the Hameen Media Group. My name is Rick Vickery, and right now it is my pleasure to welcome in our guest. He is a 16-year veteran within the business. He is the co-owner and head trainer for Mega Championship Wrestling and the current reigning, defending Battle on the Border heavyweight champion. Welcome to the show, Mr. Brand.On Xavier. How are you, sir?
How's it going? I'm all right.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. I know, the wealth of knowledge that you have, that we could be able to pick your brain a little bit and go inside and get to know what really makes Mr. Xavier tick.
All right, sounds good.
Well, Mr. Xavier, as tradition here on the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, we like to begin any conversation by going all the way back to the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about when and how you fell in love with professional wrestling and what exactly made you decide to get involved within this crazy business?
I was a fan ever since I was a little kid. And there'd be like Saturday night's main event on Channel 3 for us up here, which is like NBC or ABC or whatever. And my grandparents wouldn't let me watch it, but they had like this little radio. And you could get the TV channels on the radio. And I would just listen to like the wrestling matches on those nights, and then growing up, seeing it on Saturday and Sunday mornings, it was, everything about it I loved. These larger than life characters, charismatic, stuff like that. It was something I've watched since I was a little kid.
Well, I think it was really interesting there, the way you described that you actually were able to, fall in love with, with the sport of professional wrestling simply through the play-by-play. You and we're in about that same age demographic. And, I remember, pretty sure we kind of stumbled into professional wrestling around that same time. You're talking about, the main events and then the weekend with Superstars and Challenge. So many great characters that we had back there that were almost seeming missing today. Who were some of the, the superstars of yesterday that really, drawn you into professional wrestling?
Jake the Snake Roberts, just because the way he talked. I was a George Animal Steel fan because he was just like so out there. Of course, like guys like Macho Man and Roddy Piper, Junkyard Dog, Ron Simmons. There was just so many. Like I couldn't really pick one as a kid. Like I loved it all.
Well, that's I'm kind of with you there. There was like so much going on, and there's so many different personalities that you could kind of gravitate towards. A little bit from each of them.
Yeah, this will show my age too. Like there was a cartoon. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like WWE Superstars or something like that.
Hulk Hogan's Dropped in Wrestling.
Yeah, that's what it was. Oh man, that used to be the most exciting show to me. Of course, like growing up, Hulk Hogan was like the biggest icon for me. And then one day I was over with my cousins and he introduced me to, the Road Warriors, and I was like, whoa, this is the greatest. Look at these dudes. That's kind of how like my childhood was. It was an escape.
I got you. So as you're kind of growing, into those later teen years, like I said, when did you start training? 2002, correct?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So, what made you decide to take that big leap from, okay, this is something, as a child, man, I am so involved in it. I love this thing. And I'm sure, we both came up through, where we had that resurgence through the Attitude Era and all that. What made you finally say, you know what, I'm going to make the commitment. I want to make this a huge part of my life. And you went on that pursuit in a career in professional wrestling.
Oh man, this is kind of funny. Okay. So, I was with my son's mother, and we were kind of like on the outs, and I was looking for an escape to get away from her. So I was online one day, and I found the wrestling school, and I was like, you know what? Like I've always wanted to do this, and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. So I found them online. Next day, I went to the school. When I showed up, they were like, "Oh, well, we don't have training tonight. Come back next week." I was like, "Well, are you open tomorrow?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's when the owner will be here, who is now my business partner." And I was like, "Okay." So I came back the next day. Got in, very first bump, like I took. It felt so natural to me. I was like, "This is what I want to do." I feel like I was trained old school. And it's not to take away from the people that train now, but it was a lot more harsh training then. Because I see a lot of times people are like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be chopping people." My third day, I got like 35 chops, and I just thought it was the greatest thing that my chest was purple and black, because this meant that, if I made it through that, there was nothing that could take me, that could stop me from doing this.
It's like the ultimate, thank you, sir, may I have another?
Yeah, it really was. I laid in a corner and it just kept on happening. I was like, all right, I can take this.
Well, so, you immediately fell in love with it, as you're telling us there from, those first couple training sessions and all that. And obviously that's continued, as we were talking about 16 plus years in this business. You've been able to establish yourself, throughout the Midwest, and especially in the independent wrestling hotbed here in Ohio. Can you share, maybe outside of that early training, just maybe some other stories about, the general experiences in the business and how you've been able to evolve over all these years?
Let's see, my training itself. I was trained by Chris Cole. He actually he was trained by Chris Hero. So it's kind of that lineage for me. And he went to Arizona for a while. And during that time, it was like, oh, I still like wrestling, but I don't like, the trainer that I had at the time. And when he came back, and he was brutal. We were doing gravel runs, like where, I forget what they're called, but basically, we'd have to wheelbarrow each other in the parking lot that we had, and there was nothing but gravel on this parking lot. Like he looked to kill us. It was basically
like some military.
Either you had the heart to use, right, you have the heart to do this or you don't. And, you know, it was always my passion. So I was like, all right, whatever. I was in the Marines. This wasn't nothing. You know, as far as evolving, I just always see the people that are like, oh, well, the old ways. Like, I was kind of trained in the old ways, and I still understand that you have to, the times have changed, you know. It's not the way it was before. I hate to say it, but nowadays anybody can be a wrestler. Not hate to say it, because if that's your passion, go for it. But I think a lot of people half-ass it. Nowadays, I think there's way too many training schools. And people who, you know, if you follow me on Facebook, I'm kind of controversial sometimes. I even said it. You know, there's a lot of people there's a lot of trainers with trainees, but there's not a lot of trainees with trainers.
Yeah, I actually do remember that post. I actually used that for a little inspiration here in the conversation. I want to pull out, you know, those philosophies from you. It's kind of a good transition here to the next question I have for you. You know, recently, the first main event that I've ever personally had the honor of calling play-by-play for was at Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling. It involved yourself and Brian Pillman Jr. The two of you went out there and put on a 30-minute classic that the fans absolutely loved. As we're talking about these generations and, you know, and aging a little bit, what's one of the tricks that you could let us in on, or maybe a handful of them without exposing too much of, you know, how you're able to go out there and still hang with these young guns?
Well, I'm in the gym a lot. And what if I had to change my style up, because I'm not going to keep up with you 30 minutes going fast pace. You know, that's not my thing. When I was, you know, in my earlier years, I thought I had to do all the, you know, the innovative kind of offense and all this stuff. And then I realized as I was growing and evolving and meeting, like, you know, different people, actually, I credit Greg Anthony from Tennessee. He was the NWA United States champion. United States, NWA National Heavyweight Champion.
Okay.
I went down to Dyersburg, Tennessee, and I worked for him. And this was just a couple of years ago, and he's like, you don't have to do all that crazy stuff. He's like, you can go 20 minutes with a headlock sometimes. You know, and you're sitting there thinking like, oh man, no, not these days. You got to be able to flip flop and hip hop. Well, we went out there and 22 minutes long, and I think about, you know, it was a wrestling match, and that really like helped develop my style now, where it's, you don't have to do everything in the book. You know, you can, how do I put this? You can entertain the crowd, still wrestle, and, you know, they'll be engaged in it. Engage your fans. That's number one thing. It's not about the moves to me anymore. It's about, you come to be entertained, I'm going to entertain you however it is. You know, if you see me wrestle, you know, I have more of a brawler style. My students always get on me because they're like, well, how come you don't chain more? I'm like, I like to chain wrestle, but I always get stuck with guys who want to go straight to a hammerlock. And there's one thing I can't stand in wrestling, it's a hammerlock. And it's just because it's like a go-to for people who don't know how to chain. And so, you know, I had to change my style to go with the people that I'm wrestling with, and that's how I've always tried to evolve.
It's some great insight there. I want to kind of mention here, as you're talking about, you know, the certain styles and almost, you know, kind of like that less is more. I want to recall just something you shared on Facebook not long ago, where you were working in I believe a new arena, unfamiliar with the audience, and they opened up, you know, early in the match with a "This is boring" chant. Only by the time the 3 count came around, it was a standing ovation.
That was, let's see. Well, it happened kind of twice this month, or last month. The first time was in Alabama. That's a funny story because we get there. And if you know my gimmick, it's kind of like a thug pimp type thing. Not too much thug, just I'm a very sarcastic person. And the whole pimp thing was just for entertainment value. But the person that you see in the ring is actually just me amped up. You know,
well, that's what they say is always take the personality and just turn it up to 10.
Oh yeah, and that's really what I do. We get there and they're like, yeah, look, you're a baby face. Have you ever been a baby face before? I'm like, I've been in business 16 years. I hope I've been a baby face a few times. They're like, well, they might not take to you. And, not to sound, it was a race thing, but I had one of the other guys go to like, yeah, they don't really cheer, minorities here. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, they will in about 10 minutes. And we went out there, and, at first it was kind of like, oh, this guy, new guy from nowhere. About 2 minutes later, I had these people chanting too, and because it's just my style, my personality, the charisma that I did with it. It's like people want to hate me, but they want to like me at the same time. It's the weirdest thing.
I think it's, it really speaks to, the traditions of professional wrestling. I mean, you can go out there and have the most impressive athletic moveset in the world, but it really comes down to that persona and being able to tell a story inside that ring.
Yeah, and to me, that's the biggest thing. Is I love telling a story, especially in wrestling. The good versus bad. Can the hero overcome the villain? But it's the story of how it happens in the ring to me. It's like the most important.
Well, I know, when it comes to inside the ring, you're still very much on top of your game, but you've also, in the last couple of years have come to embrace your role as the head trainer for Mega Championship Wrestling. Recently, you've been a very happy Papa Bear with the success of such students as Paxton Calloway, Jackson Stone, Jocelyn Navarro. The list can go on and on. Can you share with us some of the core beliefs behind your teachings?
Well, the very first thing I tell them during their tryout is, I'm not here to be your friend at first. I've earned my way into this brotherhood, sisterhood, and you have to do the same with me. Like a lot of my students I don't even know their names for the first 2 months because that's how many come and go. Because, when we have our tryouts, I always ask, well, why do you want to do this? Well, this has been a passion of mine since I was a little kid. I've always wanted to do this. I want to prove to people that I can. And it's basically the same answer every time. But there's a lot of them that once they realize that it's not just getting the ring and, goof off, and it gets serious, that they don't want to do it. But my philosophy has always been, you don't quit on me, I don't quit on you. I have a student who has a developmental disability, and I've tried to be real forward with him about what he's going to do. Like, my biggest thing with my students, my philosophy is I don't BS nobody. I'm straight up, this is what it is. Take it or leave it. If you take it, now you're saying that you want to prove me wrong, which I have no problem being proven wrong. But like my students, I tell them, what you put into this is what you're going to get out of it. The opportunities that you get aren't always going to be there. You're not always going to get that fair shake. You're going to develop faster than some people. Other people are going to develop faster than you. People who shouldn't get opportunities are going to get them over you. And you're going to question yourself and question wrestling. I'm like, but you just have to look past it and realize, don't worry about the next man's journey, worry about your own. So that's kind of, the way that they know that I'm not blowing smoke up. I'm like, oh, well, you come train with me, I'm going to get you to the WWE. You come train with me and I'll get you all these connections. I'll start you, I'll guide you, but you have to put in the work yourself.
Now, it's obvious, you do have that old school mentality. You're very realistic in your approach, with your students. It seems like, you're there to offer them. You're going to give them the best support system you can, but ultimately, there is a reality to this, and it is something they have to face. But outside of like that old school kind of thinking, with the ever evolving landscape in professional wrestling, and as it keeps pace with, let's say, the real world, if you will, have you begun to incorporate any like social media, merchandising, or like overall branding into your teachings?
No, trying to see if I understand the question, right?
Well, we see the success so much of, easy to is comparable now is, how like the Young Bucks have kind of mastered this art. They took themselves from, independent darlings to, true megastars just mainly because of how they handled their social media. Then they branched that in, to merchandising, everything we saw with the Bullet Club gear, and just overall, just marketing of themselves.
Okay, yeah, I do. Like, I'm not the best example for them to follow on social media. I try to tell them, like, don't do what I do. Understand that you're going to have people looking at you and looking at what you say, what you post. We do, like, during our class, because I cover from A to Z, from the minute they walk into the arena to the minute they leave the arena, and all the stuff in between. But when it comes to, I have a couple guys that come in, and they're more social media friendly than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm more of I'm going to say it even if you don't like it, and I really don't care what the repercussions are. But I try to steer them away from that. I'm like, don't make the mistakes I did. And that's the biggest thing I tell them. I'm like, listen, like 60 years ago when I started, and I got the old Rookie of the Year thing in Ohio and all this stuff. Like, I was on top of my world. I thought I was headed, to TNA, WWE, all that other stuff. I was like, and my ego followed with that. Like, I was one of those people that got too much too soon, probably. And it kind of just backfired on me. And I try to, like, you can't do that nowadays. You have to stay humble with what you do and what you say. Let the fans know that they are important. To me, back then, when I used to merchandise, I would buy shirts. I'd get like 50 shirts per show, and I would sell out of them. So my first 2-3 years, I had like 5 or 6 shirt designs, and I was walking out of shows as a rookie with, $300-$400 just from shirt sales. And I tell them, like, you can do that. You just have to market yourself. And when I started, that's, we didn't have the way social media is now today.
Well, I have to say, it's especially, through the, those 2000s, though, in that mid part of your career to where you are now, it's really just, the boom has been incredible about the reach, just, from individual talents to the promotions, the reach to the fans that they can get themselves in front of just through social media.
Yeah, you can get. I have fans that I think nowadays, like, the fans are, I don't want to say too involved in wrestling, but they know, it's just kind of like, a lot of times they kind of want to be in the business, but not in the business, but they want to talk about the business. And, for me, it doesn't matter, like, this whole AEW, there's pro AEW, anti-WWE fans, like, no, it ain't that hard to like both. But you enjoy wrestling. It doesn't matter if it's one segment, 2 segments. If you don't like the show, don't watch the match at that time. And it's what I try to tell them, like, wrestling is wrestling. You watch the good, you watch the bad. Like, I used to take my students to shows that I knew would be bad on purpose. I'm like, all right, you guys are in for an experience. But the fans there still believe, even on bad shows, I'm like, you watch the fans, don't watch the wrestlers. The wrestling's going to be bad, so watch how these fans interact. So yeah, the social media thing is sometimes really crazy because I'll get messages from fans all the time, and I had to kind of delete some people before because it's like, if I'm in like a promotions group or something that I work for, and, like Battle on the Border, I'm very active on their page, have been since day one. You can say what you want to me, but when you come on my personal page, even though it's 99% of my stuff is either wrestling related or memes, don't talk to me however you want, because that's still, you're going to meet the person that's behind the Brandon Xavier, not the Brandon Xavier that gets paid by somebody to entertain you.
I think you bring up a good point there. When you blur those lines, especially in professional wrestling, because it's not like any other form of entertainment, where we see television and movie. professional wrestling has always been so great because it truly blurs the lines between the individual and the character. And in today's world where, you as a talent and those that your students and all that, they're easily accessible by fans, and some fans really can't make that distinction. And they don't know when to, where boundaries are at.
Yeah, I don't really have that many problems with that. One student in particular, she, sometimes has those fans that don't know their boundaries. But that's overall in general with the women in wrestling, because you have the guy fans who are just all about the TNA with them, and, they overlook the wrestling aspect. As for myself and Vega, last year I turned our matches into, we no longer do it's not intergender matches. I book stuff based on talent. If you're a damn good female wrestler, you're going to wrestle a guy, or vice versa, or, there's no, I don't want to say there's no gender, because I know how it's still mixed some places. But to me, I don't look at it that way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're just essentially, when you're putting your card together and there's marquee matches, you're just looking for the cream of the crop to square off with each other inside the ring.
Exactly. And that's just, there is no, well, you're a female, so you won't be able to accomplish this, or, you won't be able to do this. It's like, you can do whatever you want. Let's entertain the fans.
Well, speaking of cream of the crop, you have some ties with some great friends of the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling podcast. I know you've done some work with. You've been involved with current Ring of Honor champions Kelly Klein and Shane Taylor. They're regulars here on the show. There's another guest that we have on, and this name really jumps out to me. At a recent Future Great Wrestling event, you went one-on-one with the CAC Hall of Fame trainer, Cody Hawk. It was talent versus talent, trainer versus trainer. How was that experience?
Amazing. I've always wanted to work Cody. I can't say enough good things about him. That was, when I found out I was really excited. I have a great deal of respect for him and everything that he's done. And when it comes to trainers, he's the bar that I'm trying to get to. So that experience was just amazing. Just, how he worked in the ring, talking in the back, how he runs his promotion. Anybody that's down in that area that wants to be a professional wrestler needs to go to Cody.
I know, I grew up in Southern Ohio there, so, all the ties to HWA with Mr. Hawk and all that. I mean, there are people that have come, long distances just to get a drink of his knowledge.
Yeah, that was another, I don't know, I'm going to say Cody's probably in his 40s. I'm in my 40s, and the fact that we went 30 minutes was just kind of we just showed these kids what to do, But yeah, it was a humbling experience.
Very, very nice. Well, back in February, you pinned Bullet Club member Chase Owens to become the new Battle on the Border heavyweight champion. Since then, you successfully defended your title against Brian Pillman Jr. Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling has an epic 2-day extravaganza coming up. And obviously, they emulate out of Southern Ohio. Shows are going to take place Friday, June 7th and Saturday, June 8th. On that tour, you're scheduled to defend the championship against your very own student in Jackson Stone. 2 questions here. First, what does it mean to you personally to represent a promotion as its champion? And will you still be in that position come June 9th?
What is it? To me, it's what it means to me is the hard work that I put in. Because I had known Denon before he started promoting. We had, some random conversations, and he had hit me up one time. I was like, hey, I'm going to start running. Would like to bring you in, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Just let me know, man. I was like, whatever. I get that a lot. Hey, I'm going to start running. So it was just one of those things that, okay, cool. Well, then when he hit me up, you know, and it was like, hey, this is my dates that I have. Can you do all these dates? I was like, yeah. First time I came down, I was with my tag partner, Big Mo. We were doing the meat and taters. And it was basically, you know, I was the complete unknown guy. Nobody from that area knew me. There was guys that, you know, were on the show that have traveled everywhere. Guys that, you know, he brings in a bunch of stars. And it's kind of like, all right, I got to set myself apart from everybody else to show that I belong with those guys, that, you know, I can be that guy. Then, you know, we split up the tag team, and I kind of developed that with the fans, you know, to just hate me so much that as soon as my music hits, you know, I've gotten FUs and, you know, you sucks and all the other stuff that goes with it. You know, like in the group, we're always like, oh, you can't win without cheating. It's like, well, I'm still winning though, you know. But it's the fact that I went from nobody knowing me to being the top guy. It shows that, you know, I made the fans care. You know, and as much of a a-hole as I am there, the fan, you know, I interact with fans. I still treat all the fans the same. You know, I don't want to bring up the last person that, you know, was there as the champion that held the title for a while, but he was a me first kind of person, and I'm not. Like, I'm a promotional guy.
Oh, we can mention Johnny Lockup.
Yeah. I hate that guy. Can't stand him. But yeah, it was one of those things where it's just, I was a nobody who became the top guy. You know, and even in the locker room, it was, you know, I was told it was well deserved for what I did. You know, and these are guys who have been in the business for a long time, guys that I respect. And, you know, so that was like one of my happiest accomplishments there was, you know, I went from a open card tag team guy to the main event champion. And as for June 9th, I plan on still being the champion. You know, me and Jackson Stone know each other pretty well. Like, I have nothing but the utmost respect for him and everything that he did to come train with me. He drove 3 hours on bald tires in the middle of winter from Detroit just to train with me.
Wow.
You know,
dedication.
Yeah, it was. And it's so funny because he messaged me one time. I was like, hey, can I ask you some questions about, you know, wrestling training? And I get that a lot. And, you know, guys like, oh, you know, I'd like to come down. Well, when he showed up and I saw him, I was like, ooh. I was like, he looks like a wrestler. And it just developed from there, you know. I'm very proud of everything he does and everything he has done and what he's going to do. But June 8th, there's going to be one thing he's not going to do, and that's going to be pin me. You know. And I'm even going to show him the respect of not having the marquee players out, not having the wingman out there. You know, this to me is 4 years in the making. We've had matches together, but it's never been one-on-one. It's never been the top student versus the trainer. So I'm looking forward to it.
I know certainly it's a match. If not, you know, within the top two that I'm looking forward to calling over those next couple of days. But Champ, I do have to ask you, you know, we've heard you before say that the players in the wingman will not be involved, and you've gone back on your word there.
No, I said the marquee players wouldn't be involved in there. I said the wingman wasn't going to be involved last show. And really, if you look, I have never cheated. Oh, okay, so I cheated a couple times. But I just find ways to win. That's the way I put it. You got to find ways to win. It's about winning, you know, and that's what I do.
What's the old Jesse the Body Ventura famous line? Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
Exactly, you know. And that's just my mentality. Like, I'm there to win. I'm not there to lose. You know, so if you try and take something I worked hard for, I'm going to do what I have to do to keep it.
Well, we're most certainly looking forward to Battle on the Border here in just a little over a week. As we said, 2 days of it's going to be an extravaganza down in Southern Ohio. We're going to have some information later in the show here about how you can get tickets and all that information you're going to need. But to switch gears from BOTB, we've got something else to talk about. It's a little short notice as of this airing, but it will be Friday, May 31st, which will be this evening. Mega Championship Wrestling takes center stage at Colossal Con here in Sandusky, Ohio, Northern Ohio, right on the lake. What can you tell us about this event?
This has been our third or fourth year doing Colossal Con itself. It's a gigantic anime convention. It's like a gigantic party. And what's funny is when you go to a wrestling show and you see the wrestlers, you know that they're the wrestlers because they're in there, we're in our gear. You go to Colossal Con and you're kind of like, man, these people look more dressed up than I do. But first year we did it, we were like, okay, well, let's try it out, see what we can do. And we just did plain old regular wrestling matches. We incorporated some kind of a little bit of cosplay into it. I think we did I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Bloodsport, but we kind of did it like that where, the first show was all the wrestlers sitting out on in the chairs in front of the audience. And we called them into the ring that way. Then we were the second year, we're like, well, let's do a little bit more cosplay. Well, this year it's all cosplay. We won't even let you be on the event if you're not doing a cosplay. It's a good time. I mean, about 1,000 people show up just to watch that, and it gets real loud. It's so much fun. There's even a point where all the fans that are dressed as wrestlers get a photo shoot. And last year was amazing because there were some pretty good cosplays of WWE wrestlers.
Oh, very, very cool. I know yourself. You're getting the old crew back together. You were talking about your former tag team, Meat and Taters. There, you guys are involved in a fans bring the snacks match. Can you explain this?
All right. Well, at every anime convention, there's certain foods that they eat. And I'm like, well, talking to Big Mo, I was like, how fun would that be if we just used the foods that they had? Because, it's meat and taters versus cream of beef. It's two tag teams with food names. I was like, we got to do something with that. Can't just. And so we decided, well, why don't we have the fans bring snacks in and we'll use those during the match? So, it's something silly, but at the same time, there's a story that's going to be told, I don't really know how much story you can tell with food, but, it's just to me, it's something funny, entertaining, We're going to wrestle, but there's going to be food involved.
I absolutely love the concept. You said, you're at a Cosmic Con. It's all about having fun. And this is a unique twist, what's usually a hardcore gimmick. I think it's absolutely incredible. You guys are probably going to knock it out of the park. But Mr. Brandon Xavier, thank you so much for your time. Could you please let our listeners know where they could keep up with yourself via social media? I already know you put out the warning there. Maybe keep up with yourself or Mega Championship Wrestling.
There's Mega Championship Wrestling on Facebook. My Instagram's Brandon Xavier. Well, let me even look. Something. I have to check. I have it, but I never keep track of it. What is my name on Instagram? Mega Brandon X is my Instagram name. Twitter, which I don't really go on that much, is Brandon Xavier 02. And for the people that play WWE Champions, they see it like it's one of my favorite games in the world. They are like. It sounds so nerdy when I say this, but I'm in one of the top factions of that game, so that's a weird. It's the weirdest thing ever because I actually got recognized on there because my game name is Mega BX, and somebody actually hit me up. I was like, "Oh, I know you. I've seen you wrestle." And the people that I've met from playing the game, is ridiculous how interacting with fans there. So just play WWE Champions, look up Mega BX, Wrestle Mafia, and see what else. I think that's my Snapchat. I don't ever use, so I don't really ever give that out because it's the stupidest thing in the world for me to take a picture and post it. That's where I post all my Wrestle stuff, so not so many people see it.
There we go. And I can say that I follow you on Facebook, and it's always interesting posts that you have up there, and that's at the real Brandon X.
Yeah, that's and that's me. That I know a lot of people are like, oh, we should do this on social media, and I'm like, I'm not making a bunch of different social medias on Facebook just so I can, I try to stay away from controversial stuff. I don't talk politics, religion, or anything on that. I talk wrestling, memes, and, just my straight thoughts. That's probably the best place to follow me.
That's the way it should be. Well, once again, thank you, champ. I look forward to calling your matches from Battle on the Border coming up in the next couple of weeks, and good luck tonight at Colossal Talk.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Salutations. This is Dalton Castle, and you're listening to Hitting the Marks. Oh, I get it. It's a pun.
All right, Huckleberry, so we're back for segment 2. That was the interview with Mr. Brandon Xavier. Man, I'm really jealous. I wish I could have seen that Brandon Xavier versus Cody Hawk match.
Yeah, you talk about, especially, here, as I mentioned there on the interview, that this independent wrestling hotbed of Ohio. And you're talking about, 2 premier trainers here, the Great North versus the South, Battle of Ohio. So many students, of course, that have come through, the teachings of Cody Hawk. And now you've got these blossoming young stars that Mr. Xavier is helping out. And I really, listening to him talk about that match, how you had those 2 old dogs go out there, and by doing less, they gained more, and they taught everybody so much. I think what really popped me in the interview is what he had mentioned. He doesn't even bother learning some students' names for the first 2 months because it's like that rotating door.
Yeah, it reminded me of our producers at work. Let's go ahead. Let's talk a little bit about some Ring of Honor and somebody that Mr. Xavier is very, very familiar with. Some of the ROH talent, like the current Women of Honor champion, Miss Kelly Klein, and your current TV champion, Mr. Shane Taylor, both friends of the show. I like you putting that over in the interview. He did a really nice job with that, Huckleberry. Let's.
I'll tell you, talk about a match to go see. Sorry to cut you off there, Jargo. But talking about a must-see match. Shane Taylor's last match on the Independents before the guaranteed with Ring of Honor, the exclusive deal kicked in, was actually at Mega Championship Wrestling against the top student there, Mr. Xavier, and that is Jackson Stone.
Shane knock him out with one punch.
It was go find it. Maybe I'll share a link, across in our social media circles there, or on our page, but it's a hell of a match.
Greetings from the 216. Let's talk about Ring of Honor State of the Art coming up this weekend. We're on the road to Ring of Honor Shane McMahon, otherwise known as Ring of Honor Best in the World. Saturday, June 1st, coming up in MSG's neck of the woods, Kent, Washington. We've got some big matches on this show, man. Actually, both of these shows are just freaking stacked inside of the ROH landscape right now. ROH World title on the line as the real Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion Matt Taven defends against Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Matt Taven still making his way through Lifeblood there. Jay Lethal is going to take on Kenny King in the culmination of that program. The Kingdom take on the Bouncers. The NWA National Championship on the line as Colt Cabana tangos with Mark Briscoe. PCO versus Jay Briscoe. Yeah, got that one circled in red. Want to see that match. Jeff Cobb takes on Mark Haskins. And then we have a 4-corner survival match between Roosh, Dalton Castle, Flip Gordon, and our newfound friend, PJ Black. A couple of things to address here. Number one, you have Roosh and Dalton Castle in a match. It'll be interesting to see that kind of pair off once again. And then we have Flip Gordon, who appeared on the latest episode of Being the Elite, which absolutely brought his contract status into my mind's eye. And new friend of the show, PJ Black. Rick, this looks like a really good show inside of the ROH landscape right now.
You're talking about, all the great interviews we have. An excellent listen. If anyone's missed that, make sure you go back last week. I think you even have it out there as a separate cut as well.
Yep.
With Mr. PJ Black there. Hey, great opportunity for him to really shine here. I haven't picked this up on this yet. Is this the 4-corner survival? Is this championship opportunity on the line here, or is this kind of like a proving match?
I assume this is to establish the true number one contender to Matt Taven. Even though Matt Taven's matchup for Best in the World has already been announced, it will be Jeff Cobb taking on the Ring of Honor champion Matt Taven. Looking forward to that one.
One of the few things, that I always get on Ring of Honor about, they have no shortcomings when it's about handing out these opportunities. I mean, there is a line a mile long at any point of individuals that have earned an opportunity at the champ. Hey, but that's why that's what we put Taven over. He's the workhorse. He's the hardest working champ in professional wrestling. I mean, he's going out there big match after big match and delivering right now. If you want to be the Ring of Honor champ, you have to earn it. And definitely with the way they got their system set up.
And, I'm seeing people that are actually calling for Jeff Cobb to win this championship, Rick, and I don't necessarily understand it. I completely agree with you. Matt Taven is right now the best world champion in professional wrestling. He's going out there every night defending that title. And you know what? He might not be going out there and having 5-star matches, but every night you're getting 3.5 to 4 stars every night.
It kind of goes back to what our great champion Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling, Mr. Brand Xavier was talking about. Hey, you go out there and you get the job done. And that's what Matt Taven does. And he's doing it against some of the best competition in the world. And certainly the best competition that Ring of Honor can throw at him. And it's one after another. As we said, they're lined up a mile long with opportunities. But in this match itself, I could see this going any way. And I know a lot of people will look at the four of these people and be like, okay, PJ Black, he's that odd person out. I could see him stealing one here, skyrocketing himself to the top.
Dude, I would love to see PJ Black versus Matt Taven. I don't think people realize how good that match would actually be.
I think it would be incredible. We've seen Flip in that opportunity. We expect Russo and Dalton Castle to be at the top of that. They can absolutely make a star here and swerve everyone. I'm not going to be shocked, and I don't want the world to be either, because we've got an incredible talent, and especially right now with the landscape of professional wrestling, Ring of Honor's got to put themselves into play much more here. Let's start elevating some individuals here. I mean, this is just going to strengthen your card throughout the entire roster.
You know what? The more and more I think about it, I think PJ should win this matchup. As you said, we've seen Flip Gordon versus Matt Taven, and I absolutely think that's a money program for Ring of Honor. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a better story in how is Flip Gordon going to get back into another match with Matt Taven. I don't think you want to blow that load already.
Doesn't Flip still have his from the Honor at Sea?
No, that happened on.
Did he have that? Okay.
ROH TV episode 400 was the Matt Taven versus Flip Gordon match.
You're right. Yeah, so we've had that one there.
I like the idea of Flip chasing. I don't think you want to blow that already.
You're right. You got the story. Let's not automatically put him back into this thing. Let's tell that story of, Flip, the true underdog. How can this opportunity has been taken from him again? How's he going to get back in that picture? And then obviously we've got the great program being developed here between Castle and Russo.
Yeah, I like those two are paired off in their own thing. So the logical choice for me is PJ Black, and I think that would be a hell of a match.
And I think in this dynamic with the four corner survival, this would be a perfect time for Castle to get one on Russo.
Yeah, I agree. And then on State of the Art Night 2, we have another development with Russo and Dalton Castle, but we'll talk about that in a second.
It does beg the question, though, do you want Russo to take that first pin in a four corner match?
That's a very valid question, too. Or,
because you could save that for a big moment.
Or is this how Russo gets into the title picture? Do you just put Russo over, and now Russo can add his name to that long list of title contenders? Because I feel like every day that Russo is not holding the ROH title or facing Matt Taven for the ROH title at this point is leaving money on the table. When I look at the star power inside of ROH, as good as this show looks, there's not a lot of star power. And to me, Russo just screams star.
If I can do it, there's something about him. I got to see him live, and it immediately, a star when you're in the room with them. There's that vibe, that energy. You're just blown away. I talk about it all the time. What professional wrestling is missing is that awe factor, because we want these larger than life beings, and you get that with Russo. This guy is legit star driven. He's got everything that you need. I don't know if you need it right now. I'd hold off, because this program with Castle is great. You know,
I agree.
The big man meet, everything that Castle's bringing, it's really helping Roosh kind of evolve more into, the style that we're used to here in North America. Well, we always say the West, but I mean, they're West, but what we're used to in North America, Europe, it's helping him kind of evolve that game. He's learning so much now from Castle. I'm going to hold off. And I know contracts come into play here. I know they only got Roosh for that year deal. And it's likely at that point, with everything that's kind of happening between the different promotions, that he might be gone. You don't want to miss out on that big money. But if possible, man, I almost hold off to a bigger event, maybe something later in the summer or even Final Battle.
So how do you get out of this booking conundrum? Do you pull a stupid WWE finish like they did on Monday Night Raw the other night, where you have a 4-corner elimination match, 2 guys get counted out or disqualified, just take themselves out of the match, and this thing comes down to Flip Gordon versus PJ Black?
Hashtag lowest common denominator booking.
Well, I understand that, but how else do you get out of this match without Roosh either winning it or taking a pin? That's my question. I'm sitting down with my team. I know they don't have the big, the 20 people sitting around. They got a tight little group that's taking care of their booking there. And I'm coming up with something so absurd that as absolutely defines that it would even surprise you from Dalton Castle, that allows him to get a pin on Roosh. I'm going to do it right here. I think that adds to that program. I'm pulling the trigger. It's going to shock everybody if you have Black win this thing and earn an opportunity. And I'm more worried about Roosh. We just put him over. We've already talked about that star power. And sure, I mean, you could have that big moment. It would be his first loss. But we kind of we're doing that with Cobb. Right.
We just did that with Cobb.
Yep.
And now he's moved on. So I don't want to just repeat that same situation here and just kind of shift over to Roosh in the same gimmick. Let's take Black, who's a great talent around the globe. And I'm not just putting him over here because, he recently, came on with us and helped the show out and all that. I think I would be sitting here saying the same thing. Let's elevate him. We need more star power throughout this card, and this will absolutely give that to you.
Well, and this is also one of those things, kind of like we were talking about inside of the Best of the Super Juniors with Shingo. Roosh doesn't lose anything in taking that pin to Dalton Castle in a 4-corner survival match. Just like Shingo doesn't lose anything losing in the Best of Super Junior final to Will Ospreay. But I feel like we got to snap these streaks. These winning streaks when you're planning all of your booking around somebody's winning streak. We saw this in WCW with Goldberg. We've seen it in the WWE with Asuka. It presents all kinds of booking tropes that are just awful. It's a good thing to just get it out of the way.
I'm with you. Let's move on from it. And we live in a society now where we don't even remember what happened yesterday.
Right. Exactly.
We can move on. In professional wrestling, that might be one of the good things that have come about from 50-50 booking in WWE. We can move on. I mean, we just don't want it to turn into what on their level, but we can move on from a loss. And I think Dalton Castle needs that here. And this would make sense. It's not one-on-one to really hurt Roosh. You could steal something from him right now.
Yep, I agree. Can we talk about PCO versus Jay Briscoe for a second? Yeah, that's an undercard match.
Are we allowed to talk about that before 9:00?
I mean, dear God Almighty!
I mean, just talking about it, I don't even know if the violence that we're going to talk about that's going to ensue is allowed on the air before 9:00.
Looking forward to that matchup. I'm also looking forward to Colt Cabana and Mark Briscoe. One thing that is very understated about Mark Briscoe is his comedic timing. And one thing understated about Colt Cabana is his actual wrestling ability. I think we're going to see both of them come out inside of this matchup, and I'm really looking forward to that one as well.
Well, I think, beyond what we're just going to get, bell to bell here, we got a hell of a story here. The Briscoes have declared absolute war against the NWA. What better way to, get that first shot off than go right after a championship? Could you imagine a Briscoe walking around with this thing?
Oh, dear God Almighty. Yeah, big weekend for the Briscoes. They've got some big matches, especially Jay. My God. Let's look at night 2. Defy or Deny makes its long-awaited return. Matt Taven versus PCO versus Flip Gordon versus Mark Haskins. Now, the way this thing works is anybody who gets a pinfall over Matt Taven is then owed a title shot. That's right. We're throwing this thing out again. But if Matt Taven pins anybody inside of this match, they do not get a title shot until Matt Taven loses that title. When I look at this lineup, PCO, if Matt Taven could somehow get a sneaky win over PCO and protect ROH from having to do that matchup again, that's a really good way to keep PCO out of the title picture.
You talk about doing anything that you possibly can to just get out of Dodge, get the job done. We're going to have that from Taven right here.
Do all three of these guys, if Taven could somehow prevent Flip Gordon from ever challenging for the ROH title, and you build that until finally Joe Koff ends up saying, you know what, fuck it, Flip Gordon versus Matt Taven, final battle. Like, if you can build that story to where you want to see Flip beat Taven's ass so bad, maybe we can turn Flip into an actual main event talent.
You know what I'd kind of like to see? Let's link some things together. All this thing that we've seen with Flip Gordon, let's go that route. And this kind of, lends what we were just talking about the first night. The reason why Flip shouldn't go over there, because he'd have that opportunity, and then he's getting this one already locked in here. Let's take everything away from Flip. Everything. He's lost everything now. What is he going to do? What is his spot in this company? Who has punished Flip the most? Bully. What if going towards final battle, we think Flip's down and out, he's heading to AEW, they can play off of all of that there. Maybe that is the elaborate scheme. Maybe they are all in bed together. Let's go with the Russo thing here. Who's in bed with each other? But
I was surprised to see Flip show up on Being the Elite.
What if Bully comes out and says that his contract is coming to an end and he's had his representation, they're going through it, looking at what's going on here, he's renegotiating all that, and he's found a clause that actually he never lost his authority. And after all of this, I mean, you talk about a huge eruption, a huge swerve here. Bully comes out and says, you know what? I came up that way. I remember getting my ass beat nonstop. I might have brain damage from taking, so many fights with the gangsters, and all that. And I know what Tommy went through. He's a brother to me. And Flip, as hard as I've been on you, there is something inside of me that sees that. And my contract is expiring, but as my last actor in Ring of Honor, I'm granting you this match at Final Battle.
I can get behind that. Flip Gordon finally earns Bully Ray's respect. I can get behind that.
I mean, that's really what it's about,
Yeah.
Thank you,
absolutely.
sir. May I have another? Hit me again.
Yep.
And what a moment that would be. And, if Bully's leaving or not, you think he's kind of run his course at that point. Or you just go forward with, people love Bully because he's so good at what he does, and he represents tradition in professional wrestling.
Speaking of thank you, sir, can I have another? It's a rematch of one of my favorite matches of all time as Jay Lethal takes on Jay Briscoe. Yes. The more I can see this match, the better off Ring of Honor is. This is a main event program. As much as I love the Briscoes together, I love Jay Briscoe as a singles competitor, especially when he's in there with somebody that can go like Jay Lethal.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to this one. You talk about people that represent everything that Ring of Honor is. I mean, you're looking at the two faces.
Two OGs right there. I like
you're
it.
You're looking at the two faces of it.
Speaking of OGs, OG friend of the show, McLovin. That's right, Josh Woods. He's back in ROH. I've been kind of talking with Josh, and he's really looking forward to this matchup, as am I. Josh Woods takes on Mark Briscoe. I think this is going to be some redneck kung fu mixed with some MMA, and I'm looking forward to that. Jeff Cobb is going to take on PJ Black.
Hold on, let's go back to what we're talking about. Could this be a match of number one contenders?
Absolutely, to see which one is going to face off with Matt Taven next. Perhaps Jeff Cobb wins that match, and that's how he gets his title shot at Best in the World, which is why you don't release the fact that Jeff Cobb versus Matt Taven is going to happen at Best in the World when, Matt Taven could actually lose the title, maybe Saturday night to Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but, hey. It could happen. Then we have your big tag team main event. The Bouncers versus the Kingdom versus Coast to Coast versus my new favorite tag team, Roosh and Dalton Castle? These two are going to be a tag team?
You've always got these prepared. Do you have a name for these guys yet?
No, I don't. But, man, now you got me thinking about it.
How about the Meat Locker?
Yeah, I feel, you know what? Just talk about how great this is going to be, and I'll figure out what their name is going to be.
I'm actually looking forward to this one. Actually, so much for. I'll give you the toast of honor right now here, Jacko. This is going to be fun, and absolutely looking forward to about everything here. I tell you who I've been really picking up on lately. I've been loving some Coast to Coast. I think they're bringing a new energy. I'm looking forward to them here in this match. Obviously, we're going to get, the usual shenanigans from the Kingdom. The bouncer's going to give us those little fun spots with inside the match. Are going to bring that big old. You talk about a meat locker for size meat locker. That's in the bouncers. But yeah, the story in this thing is going to be all Roosh and Dalton Castle telling kind of their own side story.
So for the record, I do not speak Spanish. I never took a Spanish class, and I have no desire to ever learn how to speak Spanish. Most of the Spanish that I know comes thanks to luchadors. So I'm going to go with, this is the new name for Dalton Castle and Roosh. Casarillo de Carne, which is Spanish for meat locker. I'm excited about this.
How about Juicy Peacocks?
Juicy Peacocks. Oh my God. So the winner of this match is going to get a tag team title shot. That's what this thing is all being built around. Rick, it seems logical to me that Coast to Coast would win this match. I agree with you. I have been up on Coast to Coast for quite a while now. But I kind of like the idea of Roosh and Dalton Castle as this I don't like you, you don't like me tag team. The odd couple tag team. I could actually see this going somewhere. And if you're going to give Roosh Dalton Castle as his mouthpiece, watch the fuck out. How is that not a main event act?
Dude, I'm getting this whole vision. We should probably tag Kevin Eck in this when we post this thing. Get us some jobs over here. I am loving this conversation about Ring of Honor bringing this together right now. So I'm thinking we go back to night one here. We were talking about Castle getting that, stealing in some absurd fashion, stealing that win over Roosh. So kind of in Roosh's head, it's kind of like, you know what? This guy got me. I know I'm not supposed to like him. I've been kicking his head off everywhere we go, dominated him at MSG, but he's been sticking in there and he just got me. Maybe there's something to him. So Castle becomes the mouthpiece, as you were saying. He's kind of leading him through. I'm going to show you the ropes here in Ring of Honor, show you how we do it in North America, kid. I even wanted to go as far as that Dalton Castle goes out and get Roosh his own boys.
Well, and I mean, this is also a good way that this kind of can keep Dalton Castle out of the ring. If you almost transfer Dalton Castle into that managerial role for Roosh, I think that you can elevate Roosh to a main event act, have Dalton Castle cutting his promos, and Dalton can heal his body up a little bit. I mean, I think this is a win all the way around.
I love it. And, and save it to, if you want to eventually have a payoff with it, or, hey, ride this out. I think these guys would be a great duo. Anything, just with the way that he represents himself, just the body language, even if he's just at ringside and occasionally jumping in and commentary during Roosh matches, absolutely, I think it would skyrocket. We've already got Roosh at this level. Let's take him up here. Let's really put Ring of Honor on the map with him there.
Make these things glorified handicap matches. Like, so Dalton Castle is in his gear. He's standing on the apron. He's Roosh's tag team partner. But Rick, answer me this question. Roosh versus the Bouncers. Who wins?
Well, I knew right where you were going. Let's line up some teams like that, where even Castle is supposed to be in the match in a tag match, but he goes over and sits in commentary.
Yeah, and it's basically just Roosh versus everyone. Instead of beating one guy a night, Roosh is beating two guys a night. Dalton Castle's his tag team partner, but he's not doing anything.
So he's beating two guys a night, and the only one man that has pinned him is the guy that he's relying on, that he trusts to guide him through, although even he's doing all the work.
And if you want to do some comedy stuff, like you can have like a super intense Roosh cut a promo in Spanish, and then have Dalton Castle translate it and have it be completely wrong because Dalton Castle doesn't understand Spanish. And I could just see like Dalton Castle just making shit up and then like finishing with one line that he understands in Spanish. And Roosh is like, yeah. Like I could just see this being absolute money, whether you want an intense program, whether you want a comedy program, a mid-card program, a main event program.
I can already see with Castle. Like you get Roosh out there cutting in Spanish. I am the greatest in the world. And Castle to translate, aren't I delicious?
Yeah, like, you know, like I could just see it in my brain. Yes. It's absolute money. Absolute money.
And then I want those two going out and running around the cities that they're in. I mean, that would have been great. Like when we talked about, remember we talked about at MSG, we wanted Okada to be running around with Dalton Castle doing vignettes in the city. Yes. Tourist Okada with Castle, which they completely missed the mark on that one. Come on, that would have been gold.
So give me Tourist Roosh with Dalton Castle. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. All right, Huckleberry, let's wrap things up. Let's talk about NXT 25. It's going down on Saturday. I guess let's talk about it because nobody else seems to be talking about this show. All the headlines this week are WWE was awful. We didn't have any wrestling for the first hour of Monday Night Raw. Double or Nothing was incredible. We love everything about it. Jon Moxley buries the WWE. Vince Russo is crazier than a bat. Those have been all the headlines this week. Nobody is talking about NXT 25.
I was actually thinking about this, yesterday, as kind of prepping for the show and all this. Yeah, you got all this other hype out there. Obviously, you had mentioned last week, AEW, they're not necessarily going at Raw and SmackDown. They're targeting NXT. So they're presenting that style. So that fan base, who's really involved in the gold standard of the WWE brands, they're focused elsewhere. Now, they're hot on what's going on with Moxley there. You kind of filter in New Japan, who also targets that audience. So you got that dynamic. In WWE itself, I think we're finally starting to see a trickle-down effect where the red and the blue are so terrible that we're now relating it to all these different brands.
Well, and I think the other thing that's going on is people are losing faith in NXT. Not the NXT product, but we're losing faith in the characters. Because we have seen at this point, why should I invest in Johnny Gargano when I know when he goes to SmackDown, he's going to be marginalized in about a week? Why should I invest in Shayna Baszler when I know when she goes to Monday Night Raw, her and Naomi are going to be going 50-50 for a month?
Well, on this, we're talking about, the trickle down of butterfly effect. This 24/7 title, it looks like last year's NXT card.
Yeah. And I feel like people are just giving up on NXT, not because they don't love NXT, but because we know what's coming and we're tired of going through it. Hell, I think the most exciting thing on this card is Tyler Breeze going back to NXT where he can actually freaking work.
We just had a great conversation about 2 days of Ring of Honor, especially Ring of Honor going against NXT on Saturday. Looking at this thing, I'm excited for NXT 25. This is a great achievement. This is a great card, but I've got to be honest with you. I'm more excited about Ring of Honor.
I'm also a little bit worried about this card because every time NXT goes out and they knock it out of the park, and it's every time it's like, oh my God, was that the best takeover ever? That's always the narrative come Monday. This one is not going to be that show. There's just not the heat going into this card to make this that show. And I'm terrified the talent is going to go out there and they are going to feel so much pressure to go out and outdo Double or Nothing that this takeover is going to fall flat.
This is another case of, too, even if they're targeting you, NXT, you need to worry about yourself. Here's kind of funny. I had this conversation here. I'm sitting at Harbor House Bar and Grill right here on Lake Erie. We're at the mouth of the Huron River. It's a great tourist destination. They've kind of dominated it here. I handle their marketing. I've dubbed them, we're Huron's premier entertainment destination. So we've set a high standard. And I'm having talks with the owners, and there is a hot new place opening within stone's distance away here. And they're like, okay, what are they doing? Can you research what's going on there? I said, we don't need to worry about what the hell they're doing. They're going to draw there. They're new. They're fresh. They're going to, and I threw out the comparison to AEW. I said, the people are going to go check that out. So what we need to do is just look around here and reevaluate ourselves. What can we do better? We don't have to copy them or follow anything that they're doing or even know what the hell they're doing. What do we need to improve on here? And when we know that, we get feedback all the time from people. Let's worry about ourselves in-house. And that's what NXT has to do here. And this show is going to be a transition show for them. It's going to be kind of a turning of the page, which is very fitting that it's number 25.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is going to be a really good show, but it's like with the success of Double or Nothing and the critic acclaim that show is getting, and make no mistake, that show had its problems. I'm a little surprised to hear everybody putting it over as heavily as they are. If NXT goes out here and knocks it out of the park, let's say they put on a 4-star out of a 5-star show, people are going to be disappointed and people are going to bitch about it. And that's not fair to the NXT roster in any way, shape, or form.
They have to know that going in. I mean, you do have those expectations and you're going to have that negative feedback, but you want something that's going to last time. You know, what are people going to be talking about this come the next NXT when they're really looking back and remembering on this thing? You know, it doesn't need to be, what have you done for me lately? Because, you know, like I said, AEW is fresh. It's new. People are going to they're giving them breaks. Now, you know, when we get to Chicago for that next big All Out, you know, I think that's where you're going to see people really get critical on them and really start, you know, taking them to task on some of their faults. Because that's when we'll be heading into television. That's when they're going to have to really, you know, make sure they got a crisp product. For NXT, and even what really stands out, with this kind of being that turning of the page, they made such an effort to redefine themselves now as their own brand. Let's not forget, this is a standalone show. They don't have the support of the big brands, Big Brother there with you this weekend. So, you know, you've got that audience coming in. This is, can you draw yourself? And they've done them no favors in moving this show. You took it out of a hot area, hot market like San Jose, and now we're up in the Northeast. And where are they exactly? Somewhere in Connecticut.
Bridgeport,
right?
Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Okay. So when you think big event, who the hell is going to Bridgeport, Connecticut? You want to boom. You want to show everyone you're standing on your own. You don't go to hell. You don't go anywhere to Connecticut, let alone Bridgeport, Connecticut. And you're right. I mean, in some ways, they do have the deck is stacked against them in so many ways here. Now, this is, can you go out there and stand on your own? I think this is more so against them than Evolution, although they were booked in a terrible area, but at least they had all the PR and the promotion where they were pretending it was something. I'm going to be interested to see how the production is on this thing. Because, you know, I'm sure they're not going to send the A-team up there. You know, who's going to be handling this thing?
You know, one thing that I do enjoy about takeovers, and one of my big complaints about Double or Nothing, was the show was just too damn long. There were 3 matches. That card was built around 3 matches, and it ended up being like a 5-hour show. This is going to be a 2.5-hour show, maybe 3 hours at the most. And there's 5 really good matches on this show. Let's run through them here. Number 1, your main event, Johnny Champion, Johnny Gargano, Cleveland's favorite son, taking on Adam Cole for the NXT Championship in a rematch from TakeOver New York. I think that's also part of the problem with this show, is you have a rematch headlining versus a fresh matchup. You have the NXT Women's Championship, Shayna Baszler taking on Io Shirai.
Again, a little repetitive.
Yep. The NXT Tag Team Championships are now vacant thanks to the War Raiders going to Monday Night Raw and never being seen again. The 1-2 Punch takes on Red Dragon, otherwise known as the Undisputed Era, Forgotten Sons, and the Street Profits. Then you have the NXT North American Championship, Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze, which, while I'm looking forward to it, is a replacement for Donovan Dijakovic, and Matt Riddle taking on Roderick Strong. Now, I think they can really make this TakeOver Undisputed. I think I just put Undisputed Era over in every match. Adam Cole's been saying all year Undisputed Era is going to be draped in gold in 2019. Well, 2019's halfway over. It's time to shit or get off the pot. I think I just put Undisputed Era over Strong and basically make this TakeOver remembered as TakeOver Undisputed.
I think you got some shockers in there too. I'm obviously looking at this. Roderick Strong going over Matt Riddle. It set a huge tone for the evening. If he could steal that victory, we know how no pun intended, high they are on Matt Riddle. But, if he could steal that there. Hey, you know what? We're talking about this is a new beginning of a new chapter, turning the page for them here. So maybe you start using that as your moniker. It's the undisputed golden brand in WWE.
Yeah, hell, man, any marketing techniques that you can get, absolutely go with it. Plus, you also have a couple of storylines here. Number one, you would have Red Dragon recapturing the NXT Tag Team Championships. When you look at 1-2 Punch, hell, half the time Oni Lorcan is on 205 Live. Not that anybody knows that because nobody watches it. Forgotten Sons, who is actually who I expect to win this match. I don't feel like anybody cares about them whatsoever. And then you have the Street Profits, which, while I like the Street Profits, they're a mid-card act at best. Like, they can challenge for the tag team championships, but I don't see them as NXT tag team champions. I feel like Red Dragon's the logical choice here to win these titles.
What really stands out to me, I absolutely hate that they didn't just include the War Raiders in this thing.
Right?
Why not have them go work double duty on this thing? I absolutely hate that we saw the title vacated. I felt it did a huge disservice to the NXT Women's Championship when Asuka did that. And I understand the circumstances there were a little different. But right here, these guys are perfectly capable of working and coming. I would be okay. If the War Raiders win this thing and the Forgotten Sons got a pin on them, then yes, it establishes them as something. But now this is a vacated championship. I think you need to redefine this by putting it on, true standouts within the brand. And that's got to be Red Dragon. And then from there, then let them start working programs and building these other teams up. Just a strong run from the Forgotten Sons and the Dusty is not enough to get fans excited behind them. I think it's a serious step back to put this on anybody except for Red Dragon.
And then you have, like you were mentioning, the Matt Riddle, Roderick Strong matchup. You can by hook or by crook somehow. You can figure out how Roddy can get Matt Riddle. I can get behind that, which leaves the big elephant in the room. You mean to tell me that Johnny Gargano is going to drop the NXT Championship to Adam Cole? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. How many title defenses did Johnny Gargano have with the North American Championship? Oh yeah, none. I think this is the Johnny Gargano story. I think we're doing the Sasha Banks story with Johnny Gargano. He can win titles, but he can't defend them.
I like it. And it again, that adds into what you can use later for fuel with him for that underdog stuff, or not even just the underdog. If you want to go underdog route, yeah. Or you just do, his batshit crazy route. Where he's, everyone's taking from him. It's the world against him. It's the world wronging him, not any other way around here.
Cole has to go over clean, though. Right?
I would.
I don't think you can screw Gargano out of the title.
No, I'd do it absolutely clean. I'd actually have Roddy crooked win. I'd actually even go Red Dragon with a crooked win somehow. And then you're thinking, are they just going to steal all these matches and then have Cole go over clean?
Yep, I like it. Which leaves us with the other two matchups, Shayna Baszler versus Io Shirai. I think I'm going to go with Shayna Baszler. I'm going to put all these titles on the Undisputed Era. I'm going to go with Baszler to retain. Besides, I don't see Baszler coming up until at least after SummerSlam.
You know what? At this point, when she comes up, no, I want her to retain. I mentioned this before on air. I can't remember what show though, but I want her to challenge Becky at SummerSlam, and I want her to come up with that belt and be like, you know what? I've been sitting watching you on Mondays and Tuesdays and talking. When you had that opportunity, you kept yapping on about Becky 2 belts, and you obtained that accomplishment by putting down someone very close to me, a very dear friend of mine, Ronda Rousey. And I've been letting that kind of fester within me. And the more I think about it, I want revenge for Ronda, but I really like the sound of Baszler 2 belts.
I want champion versus champion, title for title. Becky never won the NXT Women's Championship. She's the only one of the horsewomen that never won that title.
Yep.
So you can justify that real easy that she wants to be the NXT Women's Champion.
Well, and go back to even her WWE Network 24/7 special. One of the points that she regularly mentioned throughout that was that there were so many times in a lot of her career she felt like that fourth one, that she was in the distance. Sure, she was called up before Bayley, but it was because they believed Bayley could carry the NXT division, where she would just come up and sit in the shadow of Sasha and Shar.
Yep.
She always felt like she was that odd person out. So now, in her career, and it fits perfect to her character. Now she's trying to claim all these things that they thought that she never could. Perfect. You could write that story. Championship for championship at SummerSlam. Hell, that's damn near one of the top marquee matches, I believe.
Yep. I absolutely agree. Which then does present the question of what do we do with Shayna Baszler? When I look at the NXT women's division at this point, Baszler's basically taken out everybody. We did see Mia Yim got a clean win over Bianca Belair. So now Bianca's undefeated thing, once again, kind of, just stupid. I don't like somebody claiming to be undefeated because it's a mindset. No, shut up. You're not undefeated anymore. So Mia Yim gets a big win there. I feel like she's got to be a logical contender. I also noticed I sent you that Destination Takeover YouTube video where they're kind of going through and hyping all these matches. You notice who's hanging out with Io? Yeah, Candice LeRae. Io came out and saved Candice with the kendo stick. Evidently, Io and Candice are pretty close. They've really established that friendship now. Is there any chance in hell that my wildest dream comes true and Takeover SummerSlam, we end up with Candice LeRae versus Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship?
I was just thinking about this as we were laying out the scenario of potential champ versus champ at SummerSlam. You don't want to risk anything happening there, so I think you leave the NXT women off of that takeover. Now, what I would exactly do, I'd have Shayna Baszler go over at SummerSlam and become the Raw Women's and the NXT Women's Champion. But it is a hellacious battle. It was everything that she had in her to win that match. Becky gave her everything. We've never seen Shayna push like this. Such a lasting effect that on the next NXT, she drops the title to Candice LeRae.
Get behind that. So let's talk about the big match, the match that everybody's looking forward to.
Of course, they'd have to do a live special, but fuck, let's do that anyway.
Somebody make $500 for a live special. Let's talk about the big match everybody's looking forward to.
Look, everyone, it's Tyler!
That's right, Tyler Breeze makes his grand return to NXT, the return of the King of Cuteville, Prince Pretty, the Sultan of Sexy. I am so looking forward to this matchup. Tyler Breeze takes on the Velveteen Dream for the NXT North American Championship and basically a battle over Spotlight. That's how this thing is being built. One promo. That's all they needed. One promo. These two guys have so much charisma that one promo has me entirely invested in this program going forward.
Absolutely, it should, and also people are going to get excited for this because you said the biggest hype is seeing Tyler be able to go back home, to have an opportunity. I mean, that fan base is going to follow him. This is going to be insane. I mean, this is obviously the NXT Championship is going to close this thing, but this is your true marquee. This is what people are tuning in for.
I think this will be a great matchup. Just character versus character. Both these guys can work. Both these guys can sell their ass off.
I think, what this really is going to be, which is going to make it truly special. Everything that you're listing there, people are going to see on the surface. Look a little deeper. This is going to be a giant middle finger to the fucking red and the blue from Tyler Breeze.
I'm also wondering if this is going to be a giant FU to AEW from NXT. If they are going to do any kind of a response to Double or Nothing, if Hunter is going to write anything into the script, it's going to be this match. These are the two guys that can pull it off.
These are his guys.
Yep. And these are the two guys that can actually pull it off. So, Rick, anything else that you want to talk about inside of the world of professional wrestling this week?
Had so much going on. It is going to be a hot weekend. Welcome to June. Hey, a lot of times, it was so excellent here. We had very minimal WWE talk. This is a time of year where so many people are like, oh, this is where wrestling kind of just fades and I lose my interest. Go back and listen to the show repeatedly over and over because we just laid out why you should be excited. We are firing it up for the summer. And you look through AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, NXT, the Independence, Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling. We got some big announcements coming up there and all that. Any independent across this nation, across this world. I mean, wrestling is hot right now, baby. It's heating up for the summer.
One that's kind of getting left out here, and I feel kind of bad about it, is MLW. We don't talk nearly enough MLW on this show, and it's because of Cornette. I mean, and he's doing a great job with MLW, but I'm at this point where just the sound of his voice just pisses me off. And I quit watching MLW because I can't stand to listen to Jim Cornette.
You know what? I absolutely, you know where I stand on Cornette.
I know you love him.
He's one of my favorite personalities, but I'll even have to say it's just not the right fit with MLW.
No.
It's kind of counterproductive to what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree. So that's going to wrap things up for this week's show. Thanks for listening, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Then visit our sponsors over at thegorillaposition.com as well as lastwordonprowrestling.com for your daily pro wrestling needs. Find the entire HTM podcast network online, hittingthemarks.com. Give us your thoughts on this week's show on Twitter at HTMPWPod. Make sure that you join RBV and I this Monday inside the locker room, hackerhameen.podbean.com, Hameen Media. You can find me across all social media at NotJargo RBV. If John Moxley wants to fight you, how does he find you?
Well, that's why I'm stationed right now in Northern Ohio in case he goes home. I'm not going to be anywhere near the southern part of this great state of ours. But as always, keep up with me at all things Rick Vickery across all social media platforms at The Real RBV. And I'm looking forward to an exciting week next week. Obviously, as you said, kicking it off in the locker room. But I'm going to have so much awesome content out there with Battle on the Border Pro Wrestling. We've got so many great events. We're going to have some just tremendous talent coming in. So keep an eye out for all that.
Special thank you to Battle on the Border champion Brand.On Xavier. We'll talk to you Monday in the locker room, but for now, we're off like a prom dress. See ya!
Point your fingers. Label me. I don't give up. I'll be your bad guy. Stop. Go! Cause I bring my character to cover your ways. I know your motive, I know of your kind. Break the couples that go stuck deep down inside. Wow, situation is a classic cliche. You'll be draping the blame on me. I smell self-righteousness.
That's the bad guy.
Go! Well, deep down on the south go. Can't escape the wrath on my floor. Light. Trick the man with the righteous mind. Never caught when I cross that line. I'll never be that bad guy. I hate you. Situation is a classic cliche. You betrayed, pin the blame on me. I smell self-righteousness.
That's the bad guy.
Go! your bitch and I lied. She was at home with me last night. I'll be your bad guy.